All right, we got our entire contour drawing done for the most part, void of a lot of details. There's a lot of details in the skull, a lot of texture in the skull, a lot of texture in the platform that this thing is on. First thing I'll do, sit back from it, see if there's anything that's really off. I think I'm okay. I'm not a huge fan of how hard these lines are, so maybe I'll take a little bit off. But it might also be a good idea to leave them because we're going to go really dark with our backgrounds today. We're going to use a lot of our 2B, 6B pencils today. We're basically going to use all our pencils minus the ebony and our chunks, our graphite chunks. So make sure you have that. Rags. I think that's the first thing I'll do with my rag. There's a lot of graphite. There's a lot of dark in this entire picture. So maybe instead of, bless you, so many sneezing today. I'm gonna take my rag, find a dark spot on it, fold it up into my T. I'm gonna go over the entire thing pretty lightly at first, and then a little heavier handed. Try not to be streaky with it, work in circles. We're gonna add a ton of graphite to the background with our chunks. Probably picking up a lot of graphite from inside of here, inside of the skull. You want a decent light shade of gray before we start moving. Go over it all. All right. Then I'm going to use my graphite chunk, and I'm going to go over a lot of the background. I'm going to start with a point, line that up on your objects, and then lay it down as flat as possible. I'm not going to be heavy-handed with this because it's not like blacked out in the background. So I'm going to go around my objects with that point, just really lightly color in. This is with the graphite chunk. The tooth of the paper is going to show up a lot. I can still see my lines. That's kind of the point of this, going around this contour. I can go into my candle a little bit more than the skull and the crown. What's up? No, I think over here there's some on this desk. If not, behind the other kid, I don't know whose name is. There's a top drawer that says graphite. Here, let's use this. Sure. Really lightly. A little bit of hand-eye coordination goes a long way on this part too. I have ordered paper towels so that you guys can wash your hands after this. It's going to get a little messy. All right, and then blend all the way up to your objects. Make your T. You can work in circles. So if I go over my my crown, I can still see my original line work. Really important. I'm going to go through my candlestick. I can still see my lines. I'm not pressing down too hard. There's a lot of graphite on here. I'm not too worried about the edges of the paper. If you want to leave those faded out, that's fine. If you want to color the entire thing, that's also okay. Add a lot of graphite to this. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start with my 6B today. Ballsy, not stupid. It's an art studio. No, that's perfectly fine. What's up? Flat, yeah. And then I'm going to use a 6B sharp. It's not going to stay very sharp very long, but I guess first I'm going to block in the side of my skull. I think it's a wise decision to think about this as a box right now. Highlights coming on this plane. So anything on this right side of my skull is going to be hidden in shadow a bit more. So I'm going to just think of that as my box. Go a little bit darker on that right side right now and subtract out later. Right. There's a lot more dark in the skull than in the other classes. So 6B will go a long way. We're not outlining. Don't outline anything. Okay. If you can unfocus your eyes, you can see a bunch of different shadows, a bunch of different amorphous shapes. Blocking in those shadows is what we're doing right now without outline. So if I can't blur my eyes, I'll look up here on my reference. And then in my peripheral vision, I'll see, you know, there's a lot of dark right here. And there's a lot of dark here, this shape. Ton of dark in my nose. It's not colored in completely. We want to be able to blend it out. We're just looking at the darkest spots. It's a dark spot underneath my nose. That's part of my nose. Really dark here. And for the time being, I can just focus on these chunks of shadow. There's my 3. Using the edge of the pencil, A keeps it sharp, gives you a grainy line, something that's easy to blend out. Easy to erase if you screw up. A lot of shadow here. A little bit underneath. All right. Now with my blending stump or my rag, I like using the rag first. Soften it out. It's not going to be as dark with the rag as it is with the blending stump. So if I soften those out, stay inside your lines to the best of your ability, but if you go outside, no problem. Blend, 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 blend. Go out here. Even on this entire plane, I can just blend out like I did a second ago. Everything's a box. Gets pretty dark, pretty quick. Perfectly fine. The edge of my nose, there's some dark, so instead of adding with my pencil, I can just add it with my, screw it, blending stump. Go on blending stump. I got a lot of graphite on my blending stump. If I don't, add some in your eyes around here. Just build up some of these darker halftones. Comes up a bit. A lot of shadow over here. Unfocus your eyes. Build up some of these shadows on top of the teeth. I'm gonna go over my teeth entirely. A lot of dark. A lot of texture. And it seems like it might be a little difficult, but I'll try and dumb it down a bit. This arch right here between your nose or between your eyes, make sure you get that in there. So that creates a pronounced brow, recedes, comes back out for the bridge of the nose. This side of the nose is in shadow because it's a box. Each tooth is a box. So instead of drawing each individual tooth, think of it as chunks of shadow. I'm going to use a 2B on that just to keep it sharp. So just look at each tooth and draw the shadows, not the lines. Color the shadows, not draw the lines. On this side, there's a lot of dark shadows. Blend those up. Towards the nose and down. And when, like if you're losing lines, come back with your 2B or your 2H. Color in your shadows one more time along those lines. That's going to define it a lot on your shadow side. Again, keep looking at your reference. And on my highlight side, gross. Bruh. On my highlight side, subtract. Pick your erasers. Doesn't matter which eraser you're using. I'll use this guy a lot today. Just because I can have a straight line, I can have a point, I can have a really broad straight line, and I can blend out a lot, I suppose. Please wash your hands, always, and then sanitize them. Take off that line. So you have a subtracted line. That's going to make it look like it's popping out a little bit. You have another highlight there. I don't know why, but since you do, add it. Bit of a highlight on top of my brow. These subtle changes are going to create, no Gavin today. I lost my audio. Okay. Okay. We've got highlights here to define my nose coming out a little bit more. heavy highlights on the edge of my head here. So those outlines become subtracted in favor of a highlight. Bit of highlights with your maybe your kneaded eraser. That goes a long way. Got a ton of shadows down here that I need to get darker first. It's easy to go, or it's better to go dark to light. This guy coming down here. Highlight going along this ridge. Go ahead and ground my skull. I'm having a hard time seeing it down here. So anywhere this skull is touching the floor, like here, I outline with my 6 and then flick out towards my left or towards my right. Only outline where it's touching the floor. So it's touching here. Back here, it's not touching there. It's casting a shadow from this spot. This is going to ground it on there. It'll help you see. It'll help you see a lot clearer what we're doing. Drag out. Nope. You can go back to the bathroom. We don't even have paper towels. They're coming. Just have not been delivered yet. Allergies. Gross. I've got terrible seasonal allergies too. They don't really hit me until March though. Yep. Building up some of these shadows. If you want to use a 2, use a 2. I'm using a 6 a lot. Ballsy, not stupid. Bright highlights. What's up? In the top drawer behind Jack, says graphite and charcoal. There's a red box full of them. Highlights on my left side of my teeth, just really quick. It doesn't have to be super calculated. You don't want it to just be a C. Might have some spots of highlight on this side, just stipple dots. That's going to create some vivid highlights. What's up? Okay. Good luck. Pin people. Good luck. All right. Bit of a highlight here. Why not? Have that flick out. Same texture that we did on the lemon. I like to do it on my skulls too. Make the rock out of your blending stump, or not your blending stump, the kneaded eraser, and roll it around. It's going to give it some texture. Just gives it some nice texture. I'm gonna give him a pretty good fracture here in a minute. If I'm losing some of my lines, or if I want to really marry myself to some of these lines, 2H pencil will not blend out, will not show up like a really heavy outline either. I can go tripod grip. Along the edge of my nose, into my orbital socket. Bless you. What is going on, guys? Sneezing, sniffling, blowing your nose. What's up? Yep. Adding a little bit of the 2H for my sinuses. You need to darken it up at all, 2B. Along your edge. Makes it look like it's concave. And just focus a lot on these midtones, these really subtle changes in value, especially down here. There's a ton of crap down here. Make some dots like you did the lemon. There's a lot of repetition. There's a lot of going over this just to give it this texture. I'm gonna write you a PH. Sneezing excessively. Say that again. That's not healthy, isn't it? I'm no doctor. This is all being recorded, Ethan. Mr. Eggert would be freaking out on you right now. It is slightly annoying. If you'd like to go outside, the source of your problem is outside. A little bit of dark spots here between the 2B and the 2H. Blend them out. The 2H will not blend out quite as much as the 2B. Come back, re-add some of these highlights. And then I'm gonna give him a pretty good skull fracture. That's fun. You can do cracks if you want to. You can do it like you did the wood grain. I like to use a sheet of paper. Tear off part. Make it kind of jagged. And then I'll put it here. I'm gonna make him look like he got really beat up. Like that. Rag. Just along my edge. You can go darker if you want to. You can go highlights if you want to. make it show up a little bit more. It's just fun. And then take your 2H. Just pick some spots, go a little bit heavier with your shadows. If you want to give him more, go for it. Just don't go obsessively on your fractures. It looks like a crutch if you do, so be careful. Less is more. Bit of a highlight there. 2H on the back side. Solidify your line with your 2H, your nice gray line. Fade it into your skull. Add some highlights to make your darks darker. Instead of adding any more graphite, try subtracting. Then you can make a decision on whether or not you need to come back and make some harder lines, darker lines. I've done a lot with the skull. We'll end up repeating a lot of this process with the texture as we're going over this, because it's going to blend out as we're smudging with our hands. There's a little bit of a, whatever this is here, kind of a squiggly line, similar to what you did with the wood grain on the cube. Subtle, as opposed to being really dark. Go subtle. There's another one of those here, comes up, subtle. Kind of hard to see on the Elmo. Little reflected line back here. Just sit back from your reference a lot, look at it and see what subtle changes in halftones there are. Outline should be done with your 2H if you need to make an outline. I'm gonna work on my crown a little bit. Get away from the skull. With the crown, there's a lot of reflection, so it's going to blend a lot into the background, and then we're going to have some really dramatic changes in value. I'm going to use my 2B pencil, my blending stump, and my erasers. So 2B pencil. I'm not going to focus on those the dots, the spheres right now. I'll do that after. Think of this just as a cylinder. I've got a light source coming from the left. I'm going to have a bit of a reflected shadow over here. So again, 2B pencil, dark underneath. Darkest spot is this chunk here. So you can be very linear with it, straight up and down. That's going to be my darkest spot. There, fades out, and then somewhere around here gets dark again, making this look metallic. Seems like it's difficult, but it's just really quick changes in value. Not a whole lot of transition in between. It's just abrupt. So not thinking of it as anything more than that. 2B pencil, blend it. Got my highlights there. As long as you can get a decent, really quick change in value, that's good. And then you'll have the abrupt changes in value. Just hard line, a hard line here. Looks kind of dumb without those spheres, balls. All right. For the spheres, I'm not going to add as many. I'm just going to make a backward C going around this crescent shape. It's going to give it some relief, some shadow. It's just a backward C, go all the way around the top and bottom of your crown. It's not difficult, it's just time consuming. It'll look better. And take your tough stick. On the opposite side of that, just erase out a C. If you want to use your other eraser, just stamp at it. And when you get into your shadows, they become fainter. So a little bit smaller. It just gives it a three-dimensional looking sphere. Highlight, highlight, highlight. They become a little less evident as you get further in the background. A three-dimensional sphere without an outline. Makes it look metallic, especially with those little dots on top. Make sure that you think of the background first. Details go on top of the simple shades. If I need to outline anything, 2H. Fade in. I've got a little bit of reflected light underneath, so I'm going to ground this on my skull. Probably best to do with a 2H. Color that in. And there's a little bit of a highlight front bar. 2H isn't dark enough. 2B it is. Same thing going up those spindles. The spindles are 2B. I've got a shadow here. I guess these aren't spindles. I don't know what they are. Ribbons? Dark. It's not a hard line. Make sure that it's easy to blend out. I've got a hard line up top here. And it fades much darker here. Dumbing it down into just simple shades right now. A little bit darker. Blend, 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 blend. Super bright right here. And there. And right in the middle. Just like we did our apple too, you can have that erased out and then take your kneaded eraser just along your edge. Flick out, start in the highlight, drag out, start in the highlight, drag out. The way it looks metallic. And then 2B again for our little dots. C's. Half circles. When you get into your highlight, don't press down quite as hard. Just half circles. The letter C backwards. That makes it look metallic. Stiff eraser. Just make a dot. And I got to do that for all of them. Stupid crown. I'm just gonna do this top part real quick. We can come back to these ribbons tomorrow. That's gonna take us more time than the entire drawing. Those little things. This top part, a lot simpler. Think of it like a sphere. Highlights on this side, so my shadows are gonna be on this edge. Bless you. Hard line, I'm using a 2B. And up here, really geometric. I got a really small looking backwards C. And however you designed it, this becomes a just a shadow on the right side. Shadow on the right side. Maybe a little bit below. Blend that over really quickly and then erase out your highlight. Make it look metallic, really disgustingly bright highlights. Can't see what I'm doing. Same thing here. Gross highlights, really vivid. Coming up a little bit on this panel. Bless you. Bless you. This one over here, there's a lot going on. There's a highlight, and there's a shadow, all following this like highlight looking shape. Color in that shadow. My 2B pencil. A little bit darker here. Color in your background a little bit. Right along the top of that bottom part of your crown, just a little bit darker. That's going to solidify this line. You can do that with a 2H. So hard line, fading up, hard line, fading up. Also subtract, so like here, I subtract right there. Builds out the highlight. I need it to be thinner, 2H, that's 2B, 2H pencil. It's pretty subtle. Like I said, crown's probably the most difficult part on here, just because there's so much going on. We'll workshop these tomorrow. These aren't going to be due until either Friday of next week or early the week after with our extended break. I think we all could use it. We're going to do it in class. If you're not done with the apple lemon cube, don't worry about finishing it, if that's what you're asking. grading you on your ability to complete the digital submission. H to solidify my line here, and then just color in my background. It's not going to look that much darker than what we had before. That's kind of the point. Add some highlights downhill. You want to add the 2B circles. Let's go ahead and do that. Backward C's. Up here it gets kind of lost. A little bit here too. Good old observations. Dots, 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 dots. So many dots. Inside here, there's just dots. Are we almost done? Yeah, we got 2 minutes. I'll walk around tomorrow. See where you guys at. If you want to take anything home, feel free to take it now. If you want to come back at the end of the day, I will be here to let you do that. We'll stop there. Recording stops now.